All righty. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday night Zoom training. I'm really excited about the call tonight because we have a really special guest. I know a lot of you heard me talk about how when we were at our Jules training in Atlanta, I was just really moved by Kelly and the things she had to say about self-talk and how we talk to ourselves. And so I don't want to give anything away. I'm just going to introduce Diamond Ambassador Kelly Norman and just let her take it away and prepare to just, you'll probably all be crying before she's finished. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me on. And it's an honor to be here tonight to speak to you guys about what I feel like God's just kind of given me this. And I kind of take ownership of it. You know, when the Lord puts something on your heart, then that's for you to take and to just share with the world. And I tell people that I don't teach or speak on anything that I haven't walked through myself. And so as I'm sharing these things with you, these are victories that I was in the trenches myself with. And it's crazy how God taught me these things probably 10 years ago. And now I'm picking up all these books and the same things that these books are saying to do is what the Lord showed me to do many years ago. And so I'm just devouring them to be able to share better with you guys. But one thing I want to say is I shared a lot of this with I have a 30-day challenge group, and we're going through that, and we're all reading the book, How to Talk to Yourself. What's the name of that? Let's see. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Okay, so it's really a good book. I don't know if any of you have read it or not, but there's some great stuff in there. So I'm reading this book, and it's What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And then at the Jules training, I was asked to talk on Thinking Matters. So I'm reading like Carolyn Leaf. I don't know if you've heard of her, Switch on Your Brain. Well, then I go to Sunday school class, and guess what they're talking about? The mind. I go to a women's conference this past weekend, and the theme of it was your thoughts and your mind. So what I'm saying is like it's everywhere around me. And I don't know if that ever happens to you, is sometimes when God puts something in your heart and then like it's here and it's there and it's everywhere you go is the same thing. So as I am sharing this with you tonight, I feel like this is a now word. So I feel like this is a now word from God. We can study the Bible, and we can, and a lot of things I share come from my spiritual view. So I just put that out there with you. And if your views aren't the same in mine, it's still applicable that you could take. So I just ask you to be open-minded with that. So just as you hear me, you're hearing it from my flavor and from my life. But we can study the word and it's all great. But when you hear a now word, it's transformational, guys. It's transformational. I don't know if anybody's ever shared with you like what a rhema word is, but the difference between the logos word and a rhema word is a logos word is just the written word that you read. A rhema word is a breathed word from God that he speaks directly to your heart. So, right now I'm just believing that as I share with you what God has put on my heart, that you have the breath of God upon you, that you get a now word that is transformational, that, we need to have more conversations that are transformation as we go through life. And that's what I believe tonight is. So God has something for you through all this. A quote that I heard this past week is be who you are, not who you have become. Be who you are, not who you have become. You see, I believe that many of us have became something that really we weren't intended to be. Who truly we are, who truly God created you to be is not necessarily what we're operating in, because I'm fixing to tell you why, but it is because of our thought life, our mind, our programming, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. The way we talk to ourselves, which comes from the way we've been programmed, has formed us into somebody who we are not. And I don't know about you, but sometimes in life I looked at myself and it's like, that's not me. Why am I saying that? Why am I acting like that? Because I know deep down inside the woman that God created me to be, that's not me. And I don't know if that's ever happened to you or not, but I'm sure I find out in life that when I walk through something, I'm not the only one. Somebody else has walked through that too. But once again, be who you are, not who you have become. Romans 12:2 is one of my favorite scriptures, and it's do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we're going to talk tonight about the mind, and we're going to talk about renewing it. So I said a word earlier, I was talking about programmed. So you and I have been programmed throughout life. And we actually kind of caught this. And we're going to talk about the ways we were programmed, but it was kind of handed down to us as a child, the way that your parents talked to you, the way that people that had influence or people around you, even peers at school, the things they said. And as you're growing up, what other people said to you, it programmed you. And so you and I and every single other human being upon this earth have been programmed just like a computer as things have been poured into us. Now, here's the deal. Let's think about this. If you and I have been programmed by the outside world and it has been passed down to us, what does that mean that you're doing? You are programming people around you. How many of you have children? You are programming your children. It's powerful right there. There comes some ownership with that. When tonight, I'm going to tell you some things and you're going to be awakened to them. And when you leave this, you now have responsibility because you're awakened to some truths. Some truths are going to be awakened to you guys tonight. So if we were programmed and it was handed down to us, then you are programming other people. So if nothing else, not for yourself, but for your children, that I pray that you totally grasp what I have to say tonight. We have the power to create the way our children think. We have the power to have a huge influence on our teams and the way our teams think. Many of you are leaders on this call, and if you're not a leader now, you're going to be a leader. And if you have one person on your team, then you're a leader. And they look to you as their sponsor. There's just something about looking up to somebody that you're signed up under. And as you're a leader, people look to you, and you have the power and you have the influence to form the way they think. That is powerful. So I know sometimes I think in life, man, the things I could have accomplished if I was programmed correctly from a young age. I mean, I had a wonderful mother, and I'll just be honest with you. I'm going to be transparent because that's the only way I know to be. And I probably have the best mother in the whole world, but my dad was emotionally unstable. And so I was told from a very young age, just defeating words that a child shouldn't be spoken over. And just remember this, hurt people hurt people. You've probably heard that before. But if somebody spoke words of hurt to you, then they were just hurt themselves. And so I've come to grasp that my dad was just emotionally unstable. And so as I never had a father say, I'm proud of you, or you can do anything. Those things that you just want to hear. And those of you that had a father that spoke those into you, what a blessing. Just be thankful for that. And if he's still alive, go back and tell him how thankful you are. But we know that God's a redeemer, and he's redeemed my life from things that I missed out on. But I know that I have thought before, not in a victim way, or not in a way that is sad, but sometimes I just reality of, I wonder what I could have accomplished if I had that. But I believe that God redeems the time. And that's a word for somebody tonight, is that maybe you can say, Kelly, a lot of negative stuff was spoken over me too. And I just, fight some of that. And I think, what could I have turned into, or what could my life have produced? And I just want to tell somebody tonight is that God is the Redeemer, and he redeems time, I believe. He turns ashes to beauty. And so as we are going throughout all of this, we're going to learn that we have a beautiful life ahead of us. So here's the deal. You and I are so blessed to receive the revelation that we're going to talk about tonight, is that we can walk through life blinded, or we can walk through life with our eyes open. And tonight, I believe it's going to be some eyes opening. So what we're going to learn is what we put in our brains, what information gets programmed in here comes out of here. We have 30,000 thoughts a day, guys. Wow, that's a lot. And some reading, it says like 45,000 thoughts. And I always joke around and I said, well, the 30,000 must be a guy and the 45,000 must be a woman, because I know I think a lot more thoughts, I think, than my husband, because my mind is always going. I can ask him, what are you thinking? And he can tell me nothing. And I cannot comprehend thinking nothing. So that must be a woman, that 45,000. But your subconscious mind is like a sponge. And here's the deal. It'll believe anything that you tell it. Your mind will believe what you tell it. And it doesn't say, oh, Kelly, that's not true. We can't take that information in. Your brain, your mind receives the information and imparts it in there, just like a computer. If I was going to type on my computer, I put information in there, it would just take it. It wouldn't say, hey, you're wrong. And so that's the same thing with your mind. And so just because you believe something doesn't make it the truth. Just because you believe something doesn't make it the truth. And so we have been programming all of this stuff inside of us, and some of it's not the truth, guys, but it's who we've become because of what we've put inside of us. Just because we believe it doesn't make it the truth. I love that, and that's such revelation in itself. So let's have an example here of maybe you have said, I'm just not successful. Or I just can't. I have a problem making money. I can't hold on to my money. And maybe you grew up and you didn't have you were poor, and maybe those words were spoken over you, and you just accepted all of that, and you've grown up today, and you've just said those things yourself. And so your subconscious mind grabs a hold of that, and as you walk through life, it will filter through there. It will filter, no, you can't make money. No, you're not going to be successful. No, that's for somebody else. Because what? It's either been put in you by the outside world, you've told yourself that, and it's grabbed a hold of it. What about this one? I can't stick to a diet. I always end up just giving up halfway through a diet. I can't stick to it. And so maybe when you were little, you were a little bit overweight. And so maybe some comments were talked about, or been made fun of, or this or that. And, I'm always going to be the heavy girl, the bigger girl. I can't stick to a diet. So what happens? You decide you're going to eat healthy. You decide that you're going to go on this journey, and halfway through it, what happens? You have told your brain that you can't stick to a diet, that you're always going to be the big girl. And so what happens? Halfway through it, it just decides that it's time to give up, because that's what you've programmed inside of you. So you're going to learn is that the words that you say and the thoughts that you choose to hold on to is going to direct your life. Guys, your thoughts direct your life. Have you caught yourself talking about problems or negative self-talk and thought? And I just want to ask you, are you aware of that now out there? Are you aware when you speak negatively, when you think negatively? Because if you're not, after this Zoom, as you start life tonight and go on into tomorrow, you are going to start catching things that you think. You are going to start catching words that come out of your mouth. I've just started instilling this with my son. I've always tried to be positive, but I'm just bringing awareness to him as he's 12 years old. So anytime he says something negative, so he has to come back and tell me 2 positive things, and we catch it and we stop it right there. So it's been kind of a game, and it's been kind of fun. So you can do that with your kids too. Your whole family just starting to make that a habit. It's crazy how we are so upset that our lives are not going the way that we had hoped them to go, that things are not falling into the way we hoped they would fall, but we've thought negatively our whole life. Our thoughts are negative, our words are negative. How can we expect to have a positive life with a negative mind? And I know you've heard that quote before, but the reality of it is, if we're going to think negative and we're going to speak negative and we expect positive outcomes, the two don't match. It doesn't work. So let's jump in here. Many of you believe the worst. Many of you on this call tonight may think, oh, the worst, that always happens to me, or we're going to get sick, or, that's for Kelly. She's been successful at that. That's for Sonia. That's for them. And it'll never happen to me. You're always thinking the worst. But tonight, I believe there's going to be a switch. I believe that the light switch is going to come on. Your brain is going to be switched to be able to believe it can happen for you. So what I see is a lot of times I picture the brain in two different ways. Is like some people's mind, I say brain, mind. Some people's mind is like a runaway horse. Have you ever thought, oh my gosh, all these thoughts are going through my mind and it's just tormenting and they're negative, but I can't stop it. It's like, riding a horse and pulling back on the bridle there, and when you have the reins in your hand and he won't stop. And that's the way I see a lot of people's minds. Or I see like a battlefield and there's different landmines all around and you never know when you're going to step on one and it's going to explode. So that's the way some people's minds work. And then we have the opposite over here where it's like the biggest cheerleader. Instead of the runaway horse, the mind is like the cheerleader. It's like a green pasture that is lush and calm and peace, and it's just flourishing with life. So, I mean, when I hold those two things up to you, you're going to say, hey, I want the cheerleader. I don't want the runaway horse. I want the green pastures. I want the peace. I want the calmness. That's what you want. Is that what you have? Think about that. So we're going to talk tonight about what steps that you need to take to have that cheerleading. You are your best friend. You're with yourself all the time, 24/7. I tell people you might as well love yourself because you're going to be with you the rest of your life. You are your best friend. So the way we talk to ourselves is absolutely huge. In the book that I was reading here, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, on page 62, I don't know if you guys have the book or not, but most of what seems to happen to you happens because of you. Something that you created directly influenced or allowed it to happen. So most of what seems to happen to you happens because of you. And so therefore, we can take victim mentality and throw it out the window because that is going to lead us nowhere. It is nobody else's fault. No matter what happened to our childhood, no matter if you were abused, no matter if that if you didn't know your mom or dad, no matter whatever it was, from this point forward, we can't blame it on our past. Because I'm going to show you tonight how your past cannot dictate your future and how now that you can change the way you think. So I think, let me look at my notes here real quick. Before we go any further, a lot of times I just like to tell people I want to give you permission to like yourself, and even a step further, I want to give you permission to love yourself. When I was at the training there in Atlanta, and I've been studying and reading this, and at the very end, I got to come up and give a closing word on whatever is on my heart. Each of the trainers did, and I felt like God put on my heart to ask everybody in the audience who speaks positive words over their children. Who tells your children that they can do anything and all those great things we tell our kids? And so everybody raised their hands. And so then I asked, who speaks that over yourself? Guys, there were 2 people out of a room of 60 that raised their hands. 2 people. That just goes to tell me is that this is a major issue in women's lives today. I would say human beings' lives today, is that if I asked you, do you love yourself? I mean, I wonder what you would tell me. But tonight, I just want to tell you that I give you permission to love yourself. God didn't make junk. He didn't mess up. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. I love the scripture when it talks about that you are a masterpiece. So when I saw that scripture, I went and I researched it and read about masterpiece. And this is what it means like in the Greek. And I'm going to explain it in terms that you and I understand, is say you were going into an art gallery, and this was a very famous art gallery, and everybody in town heard that the new artist, the popular artist, was going to reveal his new painting. So everybody came, and here he is, and he's so proud. And there's this beautiful blanket over the piece of artwork. And so as everybody comes and it's time for it, he takes the blanket and he pulls it off, and the beautiful piece of artwork is displayed, and everybody gasps, and you can tell he is so proud of this artwork, this masterpiece he has created. That's you. that masterpiece, that piece of artwork is you, and God is the artist. And what he says is that just picture God pulling that sheet off of you and being so proud that you are his masterpiece. And when you look that up, and that's God's heart to you, that you are a masterpiece, you are perfectly made. And so I just want to give everybody permission to love themselves tonight, because when you don't love yourself, you can't enjoy everything that God has for you. You cannot enjoy everything God has for you. Man, I was reading, I took some notes this weekend because I went to a women's conference, and it was powerful. And one thing I wrote down that one of the women said is that, wake me up to who I am, to the truth of who I am, so that I will possess my land. And it's wake me up to who I am so I can possess my land. Ladies, we've got to be woken up to the perfection that we are in Christ, that God created, so that we can possess the land. And I put in parentheses, that's freedom. Freedom is my word for Plexus. When God brought Plexus into my life, he said, I was making a training group, and he said, it's really important what I named it. And so I started praying, and I said, God, what do I name my training group? And this is what God told me. He says, I want you to name it Freedom with Plexus, because I'm going to bring freedom into people's lives through Plexus in your hands. And so that's what I named it, Freedom with Plexus. Well, then that next year was convention. And any of you that went to convention, they named convention Freedom. And then I went to a women's conference, and as I'm at this women's conference, they had a prayer team in the back, and I got prayer, and a lady says, oh my gosh, she came up to me, she says, all I can see is freedom wrote over your head. That's what God is telling me to give you. So I know when I tell you freedom, that was given to me from the Lord, and it wasn't just for me, it's for whoever wants to take it. But in knowing who you are, is you're going to be able to possess your land. Loving who you are is going to bring you into freedom. So let's jump into this and talk about programming. So number one, if you're taking notes, I want you to write down programming. Programming is a foundational key of what we turn into, our behavior, who we are. And so how are we programmed? We are programmed by, I said it earlier, about how the things that the outside world told us, maybe your parents, maybe teachers, maybe your peers as you were growing up through life, what everybody told you, the outside world. I believe we're also programmed by, those people that we hang around. I call that the chameleon effect. A couple starts hanging out with another couple, and this man treats his wife like a queen and loves her and all of those things. Well, the other couple, the man starts getting some of those traits on him. And so he starts programming differently. So it's the people you hang around. It's the TV shows you watch. It is the books you read. So we are programmed. And then it is our self-talk. What we say to ourselves programs us, just like a computer. So that is very important information for you to know. Guys, negative thoughts, negative self-talk, negative programming releases toxins inside of us. Actually, scientists, and Carolyn Leaf, she's a scientist, I absolutely love her, and goes back and she talks about negative thoughts. Your brain has like these tree-looking things in them. And when you think negative thoughts, it looks like this dead tree, like this briar that's going to die, and it releases toxins. And so it's actually killing part of your brain. But positive thoughts, it looks like a tree with all these green leaves on it, and it's life and it's nourishing. So it actually changes your brain, your thoughts. So your own thought life can change your brain into life or death. And, the scripture says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. All of this goes back. Science, I believe, in the Bible are hand in hand. Now, so positive thoughts release endorphins, negative thoughts release toxins. You're either fear or faith bound. And so you're really, your mind and your body was not meant to ever handle fear, negativity, and it brings death. And I could speak on that forever, but we don't have time for that. So just the basics there of that programming. So here we are. Our programming now affects our beliefs. If you're taking notes, the next thing is beliefs. So we understand how we're programmed, and then it turns into our beliefs, and that comes from our programming. Now remember, just because we believe something doesn't make it true. It's what was programmed inside of us. And so some people say like, well, I'm socially awkward. I don't deal well with people. Well, that's not the way you were born. That's what somebody told you, and you accepted to believe that truth. Social behavior is not from who you were. It's from what you believed and what somebody told you. So your beliefs are from your programming. All right. So moving on there, our beliefs are, or what we believe about something determines our attitude. But I like to even, attitude's the next word, but the word I like to put there is perspective. Because I love to think about perspective, how I view something, how I view life. And I've learned in life to like picture myself stepping out of my body. Okay, stepping away from the situation and looking, like if it's a situation that I'm emotionally attached to, or I have anger with it, or I have hurt, I just pick myself up out of it and I say, all right, does my perspective need to change on this? And I just ask the Lord, maybe, am I viewing this incorrectly? And if I find out that my perspective, if my attitude is wrong, now I know that I've believed a lie somewhere. And it can go back to my programming. So I let something program me that I believed a lie somewhere that caused my perspective not to line up to what it needs to be. And so our perspective, the way we view things, comes from your programming, your beliefs, your perspective. It's how you view life. So if you have a teenager, you may have said, you have a bad attitude. And those of you that have teenagers out there have probably said that before. You need to change your attitude. But you know what? Telling somebody to change their attitude is not going to work, because now we can view it a little bit differently. And this is why I want to share some of this with you, because this is going to affect your home life. As you're looking at your kids and you're seeing their bad attitude, you're going to think, they're believing a lie somewhere that was programmed inside of them. So you need to get to the root of the issue, what was programmed that caused them to believe something that was not true, and that their attitude stinks and is negative. And the same thing with ourselves. I think if we can change our perspective on things, then it just totally changes life. So I want you to remember that. So try to picture yourself separating yourself from the situation and looking and seeing if your perspective. Okay, so your attitude or your perspective determines how you feel. The next word is your feelings. So, all right, how about, have you ever tried to feed your kid broccoli and he decided before he tasted broccoli that he didn't like broccoli? And so do you remember that look on his face or her face when she put the broccoli up to her mouth, and it was like, oh, well, they didn't know if they liked it or not, did they? They didn't even taste it. Their feelings told them they weren't going to like it. They're already feelings. Excuse me. So our programming has our beliefs, and our beliefs forms our attitude or our perspective, and then that forms our feelings. So I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I thought, how many marriages ended because somebody didn't feel for their spouse anymore the way they used to feel for them? I thought, well, what if we could go back to perspective, go back to the beliefs, go back to our programming? I don't know. That was just something that was on my mind the other night, is that I think that these principles can radically change your business. It can radically change you. It can radically change your relationships. Your children, your spouse, your plexus people. This is radically could change your life. Okay, have you ever not liked someone and had bad feelings for them and never met them? Have you ever? I know you have, because like movie stars, we think we know and we're like, oh, I can't stand her. Well, you don't even know her, but your feelings tell you that you don't like her because you've been programmed by the media or by whoever, things that you believed. Remember, just because you believe something, it's not true. My grandmother always said that don't believe anything you hear and half of what you see, something like that. It's just because we think we know it, it's not true. So you can see how your feelings get formed there. Let me get back where I am. I know we just have a few more minutes left, so I want to get to the good stuff. So I think it can affect your spouse, your kids, your job. It can affect food. It can affect, the fears that you have, the things that you deal with, these principles right here. Feelings will always determine, now here's the next one, okay? Feelings will always determine how you behave, on how you act. So if you're saying, oh, why do I do that? I hate it when I do that. Well, now you know. We can take it back to feelings, that you take it back to perspective, that you can take it back to, what was the one before that? My mind just went blank. Oh, your beliefs, yes. And then you can take it back to your programming. So when we're acting in a way that we don't want to act, we got to go back, guys, to these steps and get to the root and come back to the programming at all. And if you can change your programming, if you can renew your mind, Romans 12:2. If you can rewire your brain, if you can change the way you think, then you can change your life. If you can change your thoughts, you can change your life. And this right here could be the thing that's holding you back with your business. This could be because, they're going to have belief in three things. We got to believe in the products. We got to believe in the company. And I believe most importantly, you got to believe in yourself. And maybe many of you don't believe in yourself, and that's what's holding you back in this business. Our feelings make us act in ways we know is wrong. Feelings control our actions. And as we're talking about the way we act, the way we behave, and that just tears down from the things we talked about. Okay, so we can't just change those actions. You can't just say, okay, I'm not going to act that way anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. No, we've got to reprogram. So I want to jump down here and just remind you, do not pass this on. If you have negative self-talk, if you are in a place that is not positive, this night is for you. And I want to say, please don't pass it on. If you had the flu, you wouldn't go out and you wouldn't contaminate people. Guys, this is worse than the flu. This is lifelong, affects your future. And so do not decide today is that you're stopping it. This is the line. It doesn't go any further. I'm not passing this junk on. I'm going to reprogram. So let's just talk about reprogramming real quick. I'll just take about 3 to 5 more minutes here. And first of all, I heard a lady this weekend, and she said, I want you to apologize to yourself. I want you to take some time and get quiet and tell yourself that you are sorry for all those negative things that you told yourself. And I thought that is powerful. When I realized that I wouldn't want to hang around somebody that told me some of the things I was thinking. Some of the things that I told myself, that they would not be my friend. But yet we just continue to do that. And so, first of all, I give you permission to love yourself. I want you to apologize to yourself. I want you to take some time and get quiet as you are meditating on the things that you're thinking that are wrong and that are not positive. Remember, beating yourself up will not lead to transformation. It's only inner turmoil. Beating yourself up for acting bad will not lead to transformation. But the things that we're talking about tonight is that as we realize what we're saying, is we take that ownership, apologize for the things that we've told ourselves, and decide that we're going to make some changes. So, changes. Here we go. It takes 21 days to reprogram your mind. And then it takes 2 more cycles of 21 days to make that a habit for life. So that's really 63 days. And so I tell people, I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. But what I am going to tell you, and it is so totally worth it. So if you will decide that you're going to give it your all, and you're going to make that 21 days a habit, and then you're going to make 2 more segments of 21 days, and you're going to focus. I encourage you from this night on that you go count 63 days out, and you put it on your calendar and make you some mile markers there and decide that you are all in on this. So here's what I tell people to do. And is that get quiet. I encourage you to get quiet. I was telling my husband today, that's it. That's the problem with our culture. My mind's always thinking about this stuff, but I'm thinking that is what is wrong with America, is that I believe that we cannot be quiet. We cannot be still. I said, how many people will tell you, oh, when I was meditating this morning, oh, when I was reflecting, oh, no, people just don't talk that way because they're so busy. And I this is something I cherish that time now, is that I've made it a habit, is that I reflect, I get quiet. And so this is what I want you to do. I want you to find some time to reflect and get quiet. And I want you to think, what are you telling yourself that's a lie? And you're going to have a journal. I want you to journal this. I want you to journal down everything that you've told yourself that is a lie. I can't be successful. People don't listen to me. I'll never lose weight. I'm a horrible mom. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. Although you just write. And yeah, I've had people that have pages and pages. If it takes pages, then go for it. You write down all the negative stuff that your inner self-talk is saying and the things that you've been programmed. And now I want you to take that sheet of paper and I want you to write the opposites on a different sheet of paper. Okay? So you're going to replace the lie with the truth. What does God say about that? What is the positive about that? What's the truth about that? And I want you to write it down. And this is now going to be your affirmations for these 21 days. Because we are reprogramming, remember? So now, after you do that, I want you to take that sheet of paper that had all of those lies and all that negativity, and I encourage you to go burn it. Set it on fire. If you can't do that, then tear it up in tiny little pieces and throw it away. But there's something happens, I think, when you burn it. Just burn that sucker. And then you decide that you're going to take the positive things and you're going to retrain and reform your mind. Remember, think of it this way, and it says it in the book, this is a great example, is if I came to your house and you said, oh, my furniture is old, I want to get rid of it. And I helped you move all your furniture out into the garage because you're going to have a garage sale or something. Okay? So you moved all the yuck out. And then I left and went home. But you didn't go to the store and you never purchased new furniture. What are you going to do when it's dinner time and it's time to eat? And there's no furniture in the house? Well, it just won't hurt if I just bring one chair in, right? Well, then it's, you need to go to bed, and there's no bed in here. Well, I can just bring that mattress. Well, before you know it, all the old's getting brought back in. If you do not replace it with the new, the old will come back, and it will come back stronger than it was before. That's biblical right there. So we are going to replace it with the new. And you're just going to start saying these affirmations. And we're going to place it with the good. And so a word that I like to say is, I think it's the day of taking responsibility. I think, let's take responsibility for our thoughts. Let's take responsibility for our life. And, personally for me, is I found myself sitting before the Lord and writing down all this yuck and allowing him to come in and speak the truth to me. And I'm telling you, something happens if you will get quiet. And if prayer is part of your life, and you pray and you just invite God to take away all that junk, just give him all the yuck and he will replace it with the truth. And you start doing your part. Because you see, what's happened in my life is that I've been in the ministry a lot and I've prayed for a lot of people. And I've prayed for people and I feel like God touched them. And then a month later, they're coming back and they're getting prayed for again. And then next few weeks, I see him again. It's the same issue over and over. And I didn't realize that I had to be teaching them this. Even though God gives you a supernatural touch, we have responsibility to live our life with these principles and rewire our brains. So that's what I had for you tonight.
So Kelly, let me ask you about the 21 days and the 63 days. Is it a process of you're going to commit for 21 days to you write down all these negative thoughts, you replace them with the positive, you burn the negative. Is it just that you're committing for 21 days to take time and speak those affirmations to yourself? Is that how that works?
Yes, and she has a program, Carolyn Leaf, I don't know if you have this book.
I do.
Okay, in the very back of it is her 21-day detox, and she makes it to where it just takes you like 5 to 7 minutes a day to go through what you're supposed to do every day. So one of them is gathering your thoughts, revisiting your thoughts. I mean, you're always going to get like even now is I get quiet, and I'm all the time examining my thoughts, because things slip in that I don't realize are there. But anyway, in the back of that book, she has a great how you do that every single day, and it only takes like 5 to 7 minutes.
So it sounds like it's more of an awareness, being aware of what you're thinking and saying and doing.
Yeah. And so do you guys do affirmations? Are y'all a team of affirmations?
We've just started a challenge, and that's part of the challenge is to write down your affirmations. And we didn't get very far in it because I'm having major surgery Friday, so we've put it on hold until next month. But after this call, we're doing it. I mean, we're not waiting for me. We're doing it. This recording will go up. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, I know what this did for me in Atlanta. And I'm seeing the responses and the facial reactions of some of the people on the call. And this is life-changing stuff, not just for your Plexus business.
Yeah. When Erin, there's a lot of people that are in the church today that I was really shocked that kind of pushed away from affirmations and said, I don't do affirmations because that's like saying that you're your own God. I don't know if y'all have heard that or not, but that didn't accept that. And a couple of weeks ago, my son had a memory verse from school, and it was, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And when he was memorizing that verse, God said, you got to know you're good. God says, I'm good, so you are good. You got to know that I didn't make junk. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. And so I just encourage people that when you're doing these affirmations, this is the way God intended for you. It's not as though that you are thinking you're all that. It's that you're being whole so that you can go out and help other people be whole.
Wow. I mean, guys, there's no words to follow that. Was that not an amazing call? Are you all ready? I mean, this recording, we need to get it to our teams as soon as possible. Kelly, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. Thank you for doing this. This was just amazing. Hearing it again. I heard it in Atlanta, but hearing it again, I need to hear it again. I think we all do. So we are very, very grateful. And hopefully you'll come back and join us again.
I would love that. Thank you for inviting me to your team tonight.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks, guys, for listening. I promise I'll get this recording up tonight. So y'all have a great night. Thank you again, Kelly. That was awesome. Thank you. Bye, everybody.